Stephen gave me an outline of just what to discuss and bring to the table here, to the room, is creating an educational program for children on a budget, creating educational events, programs for adults on a budget, how to run events, health and safety issues, and ideas of what you can do. And this is what I think about every single day. This is part of what we do in the Chester Beatty Library. Just to give you a sense of the then and now, I started a month before we reopened to the public in January 2000, and the museum had this idea of moving from the suburbs into a place that was closer to, I suppose, wider population. I don't know if any of you were ever in Shrewsbury Road, but on Shrewsbury Road you might get one person a day. It was really quiet. I interned there as a student, and I used to kind of end up falling asleep there. Sorry, Chester Beatty, but that's how quiet it was. And I started a month before the exhibitions and the galleries opened to the public. So a month to prepare learning programs. It doesn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way, unfortunately. Ideally, it'd be great to have a lead-in time of about a year and work with curators and work with the director. But it's just at the time with short, tight budgets and planning. And I think for them, it was such a huge turnaround from being a very small place to something that was central and local. So before we opened, I was given an office with 3 empty filing cabinets and a computer and no budget, or a make-you-up budget. And this is where I really had to rely on my experience in my former life in the National Gallery, where I used to run the outreach program and travel right around the country, providing workshops and meeting teachers and meeting community groups and festivals. So I had an idea of how to run workshops, but I had no idea how to run workshops around Islamic, East Asian and European art. Everything was new. I had to really, really use my imagination because I had no idea where to start. And that's where I started talking to people. I had a really bad digital camera on my left-hand side, but this is the then and this is the now. Nothing really has changed as such. Because what you see is that we're still using basic materials. Paper, I have loads of paper, loads of pencils, loads of scissors, loads of glue. They're really, really good basic materials. And they're very useful, and they're very cheap. Having an idea of running programs for both children and adults, and there are people in between those age groups as well. Teenagers are really important, and they are vital to our programs as well. They're kind of scary, but we're getting to know them, and we're starting our first teen program in January of next year. You're very welcome to come along and see what it's like, because I have no idea how it's going to go, but teenagers are very resourceful as well as children and adults. What is it you exactly want to do if you do start a program? I'm just going to fall back on my own experience. I knew that I had to learn about our Islamic collections as well as our East Asian and European. And out of that I went, well, okay, it's how do I make connections with people? If people don't understand Islam, if they don't understand East Asian religions or cultures, or they may not have a comfort, they're out of the comfort zone when they're looking at Russian or Greek icons or early biblical material, how do I make those connections with our audiences? And the kind of key component or the secret is who is in your community who can build that bridge between your organisation and the community you want to reach out to. And this is where I started making friends with lots and lots of people in our diverse communities. And that was our next step. It's who the hell is out there, because I don't know who's out there. So we started conversations with our local authority, because we have an Office of Integration in Dublin City Council, and I found out, okay, well, there's a near enough community to the city centre. I started talking to the embassies, and they started introducing me to various community groups, such as our Indian community, our Chinese. The Chinese is a bit more difficult, they're kind of low-key traditionally. Japanese embassy is incredibly helpful when they're promoting Japanese culture. I'm trying to think of anyone else. Within the Indian community, we've got the South Indians, we've got the Gujarati Indians, we've got the Bengaluru Indians. There are a lot of politics in these community groups, and whether you get involved in them or not, I advise not to get involved, because they're pretty much homegrown politics that communities bring with them through migration. You're better off hearing, seeing and speaking no evil. Just don't get involved. Our remit is to engage our communities as represented in the collections. And also our local European communities are also very important. But starting again from the very basics, the very beginning, we redesigned our volunteer program. And volunteers are our kind of lifeline in terms of offering services to our visitors. Volunteers are resourceful, they're generous, they're willing, they're there, they really want to engage. They need support and training. That's really, really important. So we have a volunteer coordinator, and we pretty much redrew our volunteer policy and training program once we reopened in 2000. And they offer guided tours right throughout the year, and they don't get paid. And we have volunteers who've been with us for 13 years. They're really hard to get rid of. Insofar as they are so important, we see them as essential to our program. And they have a designated person who can liaise between the museum and our volunteer panel. Having a shared vision and agreement is really important if you're working with volunteers. If you don't have a budget as such, and I would advise having a contract and agreement with volunteers. But I'd also advise having a shared vision. So what is it exactly that you want to do? What do you want to achieve? Honest conversations are really good. Having conversations from the very beginning and brainstorming if you have a team or if you've got a panel of advisors. And we found working with Volunteering Ireland very, very useful. And I've got a list of websites at the end of this presentation. The other thing that's it's more recent than when we started in 2000 is child protection. And child protection is incredibly important nowadays because we're all being asked to be transparent, we're all being asked to report back. Our funders are the Department of Arts, Heritage and the Gaeltacht. We now have to vet our facilitators who give workshops to children. I've been vetted. I attend training pretty much once a year. We have a child protection policy and we have a learning policy. And they're like a framework to provide you support. It gives you kind of a sense of where you want to go and how you operate. They're kind of the more mundane, boring things, but they're really, really important. And it's where do you go for child protection training? And I think within Ireland, we're a little bit slow in terms of resources. But the Arts Council has a very good page on its website that pretty much covers the basics about child protection and how to write a policy. Vetting is a problem as well, but again through maybe the HSE or through your local arts office for advice and where you can get vetting. Vetting takes around 3 months. It's kind of a backlog. I think there are 2 Gardaí who look after the vetting. But they're all things to cover yourselves, just to make sure that you're okay. That's really what this is about. And they're just things you need to think about when setting up programs for children. If you have a budget, we have a set rate of fees for freelance. We have facilitators who are freelance. It's me. That's me. I'm in the education department. I've got nobody else in there, and that's been like that for 13 years. We were supposed to get an education officer. Unfortunately, with the recession and cutbacks and ban on hiring people, so I've had to think outside the box. And freelance facilitators, again, they've stayed with us for the last 10, 12, 13 years. They get training, but we also have kind of a set system of fees. For example, 1 hour they get €35, €2.50 and so on and so forth. They attend training sessions in how to present workshops for children. And also, in response to child protection, how many facilitators should you have for your workshops for children? Do any of you here carry out workshops for children? Okay, how many would you have normally? Let's say a group of 20 kids.
I have 3.
3 is ideal. 2 to stay behind, 1 takes the kids, go out to the toilet. That's really what it's about. It's about practicality. If a child needs to go to the toilet and you leave a facilitator in with a group of 20 kids, you've left that facilitator exposed to anything. I mean, it's just insofar as an accident could happen and you've got 1 witness. It's always good to have backup. It's really making sure that everything's above board. So that 3 is a really good idea, if you can. And volunteers are very helpful as well if you don't have paid facilitators. And materials don't need to cost too much either. I mean, if you see the workshop, that's just one of our recent workshops. That's newspaper, paper, scissors, pencils, glue, feathers, glitter. Kids really love glitter. But it's very, very cheap. It's not that expensive. And we have a great panel of freelance facilitators who are resourceful and they're very creative. And they're the people who are inspired to create diverse workshops for us. they're not I mean, I think the expectation as well, we have such a diverse collection. We don't have artists from the Japanese community, we don't have artists from the Islamic community, they're not here yet. There are generations who are growing up here in Ireland, and we don't have the art schools training in Islamic or East Asian art. So our Irish artists, the predominantly Irish artists, are there experimenting and exploring different themes, and they're producing workshops such as this turban hats. It's a no-brainer, and it's good fun as well. The other thing, I suppose, for us as an institution, as the National Cultural Institution, is looking at learning and learning styles. Most of us have been through the Irish education system where we had a teacher teaching us, and I don't know whether you had that rapport where you were able to talk back and you were able to explore your ideas. I come from an adult and community education background where in an adult context we all share our ideas in our own learning environments. We have discovered generic learning outcomes, which is this model used in the museums, libraries and archives in the UK. And we've had 2 training sessions for our freelance facilitators with a facilitator from the UK. And we're exploring that everybody has their own learning style. I'm a visual learner. I'm really bad at words, but I remember pictures. Other people are really good with touching. Other people are really good at listening. Other people are really good at reading. And I think they're really important to just take on board when you're working with your audiences, to understand that your audiences are diverse. So you can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that caters for everybody. And those generic learning guidelines are on the Inspiring Learning for All. It's under the Museums, Libraries and Archives website. And we've seen a huge change in our programs. Our facilitators are getting Christmas cards, boxes of chocolates. We were given loads of biscuits and crisps there over the summertime. That has never happened before. So obviously the children are responding very well to our new approach. And that's okay, because we're experimenting. We've been experimenting for the last 13 years. Because, you know, what might have worked back in 2000 may not work in 2013, but it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to fail, because that's the only way you're going to learn. And to accept those mistakes and review. We review every year about how did the program go, what did we learn, what didn't work, what worked, would you do this again, and so on and so forth. Because it's actually, it just keeps yourself refreshed as well, or otherwise the program can go quite stagnant. And when programs go stagnant, you lose your audience as well. And this is the thing about the library, is that learning is for everybody. We don't fly in huge groups of musicians from the Middle East. We just don't have that budget. We don't fly in artists from Japan. We don't have that budget. We don't fly in artists from Southeast Asia. We don't have that budget. So this is where we rely on our community connections. And this is where, I mean, I found myself walking up into local parish halls and meeting our local Indian community for festivals and making connections with people going, I need to get to know you, because you may in some shape or form be able to help deliver workshops for us or programs for us. And these are members of our community who are very, very enthusiastic and passionate about their culture, and they're willing to share and perform, or to facilitate, or to advise. And I'm there because I can't do it myself. I don't know how to do Japanese calligraphy, I don't know how to do Chinese calligraphy, I don't know how to do any of these things, because it's me. I mean, I'm not this person with 8 arms that can do loads of things. This is where we rely on our community. They're really, really important. The Spanish musicians here, we've got lots of Spanish people living in Ireland, but these guys happen to be musicians. The calligrapher there, he's actually Paris-based, but we got a little bit of support from our local cafe, and he's come over twice now to give demonstrations in Arabic calligraphy. The generic learning outcomes apply to adults as well as children. These are adaptable. So a workshop that you might have tried for children, you can adapt and use for adults. Just pitch it for your age group. Always make sure you be pitching it for the right audience. You can use the same themes, just notch it up a bit for your adults. And that's it. I mean, the most important thing is it's that I'm a Sesame Street generation where there's a song about the people that get to know in your neighbourhood, and that's really, really important. It's really, really important to make those connections with people in your community, because they are the people who come back and bring friends, but they'll also advise you in what you deliver and what you offer. The other thing is, if you have no money, there is a new centre that's opened in Tala, I think it is, on the M50. It's called recreate.ie, and they have lots of recycled material that's free. And you can go in, I think you need a membership though, and you can fill your car with recycled materials. It's fun. I haven't been there. We went to the north there last month. There's a similar one up in Belfast, and you can get stuff for free. There are things out there. Your local community, is there local sponsorship? Can you get any materials from your local businesses? Are they there? Because they're there to support you. Times are tough, times are hard. We've managed to wing lots of things from different organisations and different businesses in different shapes and forms, like platters of sushi and platters of tempura, celebrating Japanese culture for free. It's just, you become like a salesperson, a business person, and you get talking to lots of people. And then there are things to remember: the right people for the right programs, health and safety, child protection, data protection. That means if you take photographs of people as well, just make sure they sign a form. There's a lot of paperwork involved, unfortunately, but we're at this stage in our lives where the protection of people's identity, the protection of people's names and addresses are really, really important. It's a lot of paperwork, it's really annoying, but you've got to do it. Just to protect yourselves, that's really what this is all about. Contracts and agreements, clear communication, set goals. And the most important thing is to have fun. All of this isn't fun, but the bottom line is when you're out there and you're working with your children or your teenagers or your adults, is just to have fun. Because that's the most important thing. Because people pick up on that when they come into an organisation or a setting or a pop-up place, that this is a fun event. And there are just some useful sites. Volunteering Ireland, the Arts Council, on their website you've got child protection, ANTHUS for adult learning. The local authorities, Kilkenny County Council, for example, has an integration policy if you're trying to integrate your local communities, your diverse communities. Local education centres, third level, and I've put down the UCDMA cultural policy pack up. It's not here today, but they do have interns, and interns are looking for placements. And they're coming with an arts background, and they're very resourceful. They might be able to help you set up your programme, or they might be able to help you write a policy, or they might be able to help you with something that you may not have the skills to do, but they're there because they're coming fresh out of a cultural policy programme. Okay, thank you.